Welcome on into the Baseball Insiders. I am Robert Murray. As you can see, Adam Weinrib is not here with me. He is currently out and about. I kind of forgot where he is actually, but it's just going to be a solo pod with me today. So if you have any questions, make sure to put them in the comments over here because I'm going to try to answer as many of them throughout the show. I got plenty of thoughts now that opening day is over and done with. And holy cow, what an absolute whirlwind of a day. The Cubs actually got their first win. So congratulations to Hunter Miser. I'm no longer able to troll you, so I guess that's good news for you. But we got plenty of thoughts over here. Before I dive into all my thoughts, I figure I should follow in Adam Weiner's footsteps over here and plug the Discord, which we always do a Q&A every Thursday in there. I try to be as active as I possibly can. I try to break news in there or give it at least a heads up that I'm going to be breaking some news in there. Try to answer as many questions as I can. Join the Moonshot or subscribe to the Moonshot, which is our mailbag each week. We absolutely love doing that. Mark Powell, who is our lovely editor, does a terrific job putting that all together. So make sure to look at that. Raymond, hello. It's good to be here with all of you guys. Adam is in LA. I like how Justin knew that, not me. So I guess I'm a bad friend. But anyways, I got plenty of thoughts, and hopefully Canyon and the rest of the Pirates fans are in here for this. Because I got plenty of thoughts on the Pirates, and I'm actually going to start with that. I've had this thought in my head for a while, and I want to give Jake Mintz of the Cespedes Family Barbecue. He was the first one to really kind of pretty bluntly put it. But the Pirates are failing Paul Skenes. They have such an opportunity here with Skenes, with Jared Jones, with Bubba Chandler coming up as well. And I'm telling you, Bubba Chandler, he's regarded by some as an even better prospect than Jared Jones. And that's saying a lot because the Pirates are incredibly high on Jones, but Chandler is just really, really good. So they have this window here with all three of these guys signed cheap. And yet this offseason, they really didn't end up doing much at all. They got Tommy Pham. They got Spencer Horwitz, who's already on the injured list this year. They did very small things to upgrade the roster. Andrew Heaney was another, but they have a prime window here for at least the next few seasons to go out and spend in free agency with these guys signed so cheap, and yet they failed to do so. To me, that's an organizational failure. Like, you can criticize or you can criticize Ben Cherington, you can criticize Derek Shelton, you can criticize anyone who you want over here, but it falls squarely on Bob Nutting. Like, go out and spend some meaningful resources. Go out and get a big bat. This was never going to happen, but they needed a first baseman this offseason, and I thought this was a perfect time to go out and get a guy, even like a Pete Alonso, and his market was so weak that, I mean, they had an opportunity to go do so, and they did not. I can't even imagine they checked in. I got a sneeze coming, so my apologies if I'm going to mute myself here in a second. But it's really unfortunate because Pirates fans are among the most passionate fans that I encounter. And they have a really good foundation there, especially with the pitching staff and even some players on offense as well. But their ownership group fails to really invest meaningful resources into that roster. And it's a failure all around. So this is my call for Bob Nutting to go out and spend, whether it's at the trade deadline or even next offseason, because the fact, again, I had the Pirates as a sneaky team to end up advancing to the postseason this year, in large part because of that pitching staff. And yet their offense is so underwhelming that even with that pitching staff, they could end up missing the postseason, which kind of makes them feel like the National League version of the Seattle Mariners in a way. So it's very unfortunate all around there for the Pirates and the Pirates fans. So hopefully Bob Nutting hears this and changes his mind. Going off of that, we also have, I mentioned that how the Pirates need to be aggressive in looking for upgrades. So I'm gonna go super early here because we're only on day 2. I'm on day 4 for some of these teams like the Dodgers and the Cubs. But I'm gonna give you an early look at 2 of the top trade candidates now, and I'll also have some here later on as well. But Luis Robert Jr. with the Chicago White Sox feels like the prime opportunity for them to trade him. And this offseason, they got feelers, and even Robert Jr. admitted that he was surprised he ended up not getting traded this offseason. And honestly, so was I, because there was different rumblings throughout the offseason that they could be waiting to add an outfielder before trading a guy like Luis Robert Jr. Ultimately, they ended up holding on to Robert Jr., but he is going to be incredibly coveted. He's one of the better young players in baseball. He's got a very affordable contract, obviously a pretty extensive injury history. So that will give teams some questions there, but you can't doubt the skill set there. And if I'm just throwing out teams here, but like the Atlanta Braves, or just even any team in general who needs an offense or needs outfield help, that to me feels like such a great fit. So I would expect the Luis Robert Jr. trade rumors to really pick up as the season goes on here. And the other one is pretty incredibly obvious here. It's Sandy Alcantara with the Miami Marlins. He is someone who teams have eyed up for a while, and he is among the most talented players in baseball, one of the best pitchers. And I'm not going to say it's a lock that he's traded because injuries happen, but if he's healthy, I would imagine there's a pretty good chance that he's ultimately going to get traded. And they would be able to get an absolute haul in return for him, especially because he's got a very affordable contract. He's a player with his talent, with his contract, makes him an incredibly enticing option. And I honestly think he's a tremendous candidate to be moved. So we'll see. But I know there's a lot of rumors that he could be traded before opening day. That was never going to happen. He was always going to end up being on the roster come opening day. But how much further along after that, I'm not exactly sure. But I think there's a pretty good chance, if he's healthy, that he's ultimately going to be moved at the deadline. So that is a good call by MLB Deadline News. Miami is undefeated right now in a playoff spot. So that's a shame on me. Maybe they actually buy at the deadline, but looking at how much they ended up doing this offseason, I'm not exactly going to be hold my breath here that they're going to be buyers at the deadline. Sandy to the Red Sox, according to Raymond here, not a bad call. They have been looking for pitching all offseason. They obviously got with Crochet and Walker Buehler. So not exactly the biggest need in the entire world, but it's a good thought at least. All right, now I'm gonna switch gears here. Hopefully Beyond the Halo is in here, so he can appreciate this one. But I cannot imagine a worse start to your opening day than what happened to the Los Angeles Angels, because they obviously they spent this offseason. They thought they were going to be better this year than they were last year. And granted, to be fair, this is one game. It's opening day. But to get blown out by the White Sox and have to put a position player into that game in the late innings, that is about as embarrassing as it gets. And obviously, like Ron Washington and that coaching staff and everyone there is gonna say it's been one game. But to have that happen against the team that was the worst team in Major League history last year, that's a pretty big punch to the gut. So, overall, not a very good look there for the Angels. They will be fine. They'll be better. I don't necessarily expect them to be a playoff team by any means, but could not have imagined a worse start for them. And they're going to try to bounce back later today against the White Sox. But yeah, that's the good news for them is, well, actually, it's the Angels, so you never know. But it can't really get much worse than that. So maybe just the arrow's going to point up from here on out for the Angels. So we'll see there. Another one that is getting a ton of headlines, and rightfully so, is what's going on with Tyler O'Neill here. What he's done opening day, the last 6 years, he's homered the last 6 opening days, which is obviously an MLB record. And I feel pretty confident that in my lifetime and everyone else's lifetimes in here, that is a record that will never be broken. And the fact that he's done that, and he did it yesterday with a 3-run homer to the opposite field, that's a tremendous feat by him. It's a tip to the cap. And if every day was opening day for Tyler O'Neill, I think he would be the best player in baseball history and would be even better than Shohei Ohtani. But sadly for him, not every day is opening day. But he's still a very effective player. Signed a 3-year contract with the Orioles this offseason. He's got an opt-out after year 1. Would think if he has a pretty strong season that he would opt out. But a very good season, or a very good start to the season so far for O'Neill, and extending that record, which I feel like everyone next year, now that they're aware of it, is going to end up betting the anytime home run for Tyler O'Neill on the next opening day. So seems like a pretty good bet, but this is not a podcast that offers betting advice. So don't listen to that because, I'm not supposed to give betting advice. But anyways, now there's a part of the segment that I know that Drew is going to like because it revolves around the San Diego Padres. And what is going on with the San Diego Padres is this. They have an absolute superstar in Jackson Merrill. Last year, he showed it. To me, he should have been the rookie of the year in the National League. Paul Skenes won it, which, you know what, that's my comment there was not a slight at Skenes. What he ended up doing last year was awesome, but I think Merrill, from the time that he debuted to the end of the season, he was unbelievable. And the fact that he's going to be a foundational piece for the Padres for the long term is a really good thing for that organization because they what they have there with Merrill is something special. And there's a reason why that almost every team in baseball checked in on Merrill at some point while he was in the minors. A lot of people could see this coming as far as a future superstar coming with him. But there's also a reason why the Padres held on to him. They knew what they had. They view him as a long-term piece. The fact that they haven't extended him, that's a tough spot. Obviously, their finances are pretty tight there. But his price tag from last opening day to even now has gone up pretty drastically. But yeah, he's a superstar. He had 4 RBI in opening day. He's on pace for 650 RBI this season, which last time I checked, that would be a major league record. So that would be pretty darn good. But I don't expect him to keep up that pace. But that being said, he is still a pretty incredible player. So shout out to Jackson Merrill. Shout out to the San Diego Padres for being as patient as they were in trade talks with him because they moved so many different players throughout their farm system. But they held on to Merrill. And I'll also give AJ Preller credit here too, because for the amount of prospects that he's traded over the years, they've always had very productive and good players in their farm system, even after that. So, I think that speaks to the scouting job that Preller has done there in San Diego and his ability to add and develop talent. So, good job overall by the Padres and good job by Jackson Merrill, who at this point has established himself as one of the best players in baseball. So, good job overall by those guys. And speaking of former Padres prospects, it is time to talk about Mackenzie Gore. And I want to get his stat line up here real quick so I can make sure I get this right because he was absolutely masterful yesterday. He ended up pitching 6 innings yesterday, allowed only 1 hit, and he struck out. What did he strike out? I want to make sure I got it. 13 batters. And he's had a very up and down career so far. And he was one of the main headliners in the Padres' package to the Nationals for Juan Soto. And parting with all those prospects in that trade was a really tough thing for Preller and that front office to do. But it spoke to their belief in Juan Soto and just how much they really love the player. But parting with all those guys was tough, especially Gore, because if everything clicked for him, he was going to be a frontline starting pitcher. And the first couple of years of his career here in the majors, he struggled. And he was a guy you always wondered if he'd be able to put it together successfully. And he ultimately did not do that. But there was glimpses of it for sure. And this year, got the start on opening day, and he ended up flashing. And he looked masterful. And if that was a sign of things to come here for Mackenzie Gore in the Nationals, we might be talking about one of the better young players in baseball because even after all of his, even after all this, he's still only 26 years old. He's got an incredibly bright future ahead of him. So the Nationals have a very bright future, even with all of their players that they have coming up or even just on the roster right now. But if they can get a big performance out of Mackenzie Gore, that team becomes infinitely more dangerous this year, but also in future seasons as well. So to me, that team is really scary. But if Gore continues at this pace, which if he has 13 strikeouts every game, we're talking Cy Young award. But this could not have been a more encouraging start for Gore overall. And the Nationals and that front office have to be just absolutely just thrilled with what they saw there. So good job by Gore. All right, let's see what else do we got here. The Phillies' lineup remains very dangerous because they got pretty quieted yesterday. I believe in that start yesterday by Gore, the Phillies' offense, their stars struck out at least once. All of them struck out at least once against Gore, which speaks to just how good he was, because that lineup that he faced was very good. And if you look at that Phillies lineup, because immediately after Gore got removed, that's when they took advantage of the Nationals. And Bryce Harper homered and Kyle Schwarber homered. So even after you silence the Phillies' hitters for at least 6 innings, they still have the ability to go out and get you. And Harper's always done that. That's why he's as highly paid as he is and one of the faces of Major League Baseball. But Kyle Schwarber is everything that the Phillies could have ever hoped for there. And he is as dangerous of a power hitter as there is in baseball. And the fact that they were able to sign him a few years ago was a real strong addition by that front office. He's entering the last year of his contract, and to me, he screams an extension candidate. We've even heard him say that he's willing to, he would like to stay in Philadelphia. He likes being there. And I believe Matt Gelb of The Athletic reported at one point this spring that there were some talks there. So if I was the Phillies, I would make extending Schwarber a priority, because he is, alongside Harper, alongside Turner, and some of these other guys on offense, he's a foundational piece. So I would try to retain him on maybe a 3-year contract, maybe around like $70 million, or somewhere around what Teoscar Hernandez ended up getting from the Los Angeles Dodgers. There are different players, obviously, but I think as far as a corner outfielder / DH type, I think that kind of contract would really fit for Schwarber there. So if I was Philadelphia and if I was Dave Dombrowski in that front office, I would really prioritize that. So we'll see, but that's at least something that I would go out and do. And going back to some trade deadline thoughts, because you know me, I love trade deadline talk. I love any and all speculation. I love talking about it because breaking news is a huge passion of mine. And if the Cardinals, they got some pretty nice performances yesterday from two of their guys who are obviously going to be heavily mentioned in trade rumors this season and even in the offseason as well, in Nolan Arenado and Sonny Gray. And Arenado, he obviously had an opportunity to go to the Houston Astros in a trade, but he vetoed that. But he is still an effective player. Obviously, his salary, his declining performance that he's had in recent years, along with that no trade clause, always made moving him incredibly difficult. So the fact that it was already a limited field and he ruled out the Astros after that, that made it really tough. So I'm not surprised that he ended up entering opening day on the Cardinals' roster, especially after the Red Sox went out and got Alex Bregman there, because that fit to me always made so much sense overall for at least the Cardinals' sake. It didn't make sense for me from the Red Sox perspective, because Bregman would have been the better option 100 out of 100 times here than Arenado for the Red Sox. So it was a good job by the Red Sox, figuring that out and navigating that and getting the player that they were very patient for this offseason. But I'm really curious to see if Arenado is traded this offseason, or this season, I should say, where exactly he'd go, because at this point the fit is not clear. But as there always is throughout at least the first half of the season, there will be injuries. So maybe a fit becomes more clear and a team could get aggressive there for Arenado. But going back to the Red Sox, that was a really good job by that front office waiting that out, because there felt like at some points that Bregman was looking to go to the Tigers. I thought at a few points he was going to end up going there. But they were patient. They stepped up late. They got the player, and it worked out. I'm curious to see exactly how he does in Boston, because that fit to me is a really good one for both team and player. So we'll see. But the other one that is Sonny Gray, and like Arenado, he's got the full no trade clause, which makes things really difficult for any team that's going to possibly acquire him, because he can obviously veto the trade. But he is a very effective right-handed pitcher. He's got a high salary for the remainder of his contract, so that could be an obstacle for some teams. But the fact that he's controllable is really intriguing as well. So we'll see. But those two players, in addition to the ones that I mentioned earlier with Luis Robert Jr. And Sandy Alcantara, are going to be two of the more heavily discussed guys at the deadline. So those are the 4 players that I'm really watching, but we're going to have plenty others really emerge here in the coming weeks and months. So be sure to tune into this podcast for more of that stuff, because surely there's going to be plenty of trade speculation on this podcast, which we always love. Now I'm going to get to the Discord and answer some questions there. And then we also have a bunch of comments here that I'm going to end up getting to as well. Let's see. Oh yeah. Question from Drew. Does Preller said in his press conference yesterday that he said teams are interested in Eguy Rosario. Do you know what teams are interested in him? Overall, at this point, I don't know who's interested, but the indications that I've gotten from other people around the league that are not with the Padres would seemingly indicate that, yeah, Rosario is likely, he's likely to be moved somewhere. And the Padres are not going to just move him just to move him. They believe he is a major league caliber player, and they're going to look for value in return. But they are indeed drawing interest in Rosario. And the same can also be said, I'm told, for Alexander Canario. And I would put a Canario trade as likely at this point. He was designated for assignment by the New York Mets, and that was a really tough decision overall for them in trying to figure out their opening day roster. But Canario is indeed a trade candidate. He is a very intriguing young player. And obviously we saw him do some things with the Mets this spring that are going to have plenty of teams interested. And to my knowledge, he is indeed drawing interest. So that is going to be one to watch in the coming days as well. Scott F., does Eguy Rosario live in your head or live rent-free in your head, Drew? My sources say yes. Let's see. This is one that our producer Joanne and I were talking about behind the scenes here. And it's a really tough question, but Culvers or Whataburger? I love both, but I grew up on Culvers, so I'm going to go with Culvers. Culvers, you get me like a double burger there or a double butter burger. Not much of a butter guy, but a butter burger is always just really good. Their concrete mixers are very good. I've never gotten the ice cream at Whataburger, but their burgers are good at Whataburger. But I don't know what it is about Culvers. They're just pretty damn good. To me, Culvers is the superior fast food burger. And honestly, besides In-N-Out, I'd say Culvers is the best. Joanne and our private chat here said that Whataburger is so overrated. She used to live in Texas, so I feel like she's got some credibility here. It can be kind of dry, so I can see that, Joanne. I think that's a pretty good take by you overall there. But yeah, Culver's 10 out of 10 times here. I got to take a drink because I've been talking for, I think, 24 minutes straight. Yeah, we're not going to have In-N-Out slander on here, RG. I don't know if you're slandering In-N-Out, though. But yeah, In-N-Out's pretty elite. We love In-N-Out in these parts. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but destinations for Dom Smith is what TZ Ilok. I have no idea. I'm very much mispronouncing that. So my apologies, TZ. But I would look at, as far as Dom Smith goes, I would look at the Pirates as a team that makes a lot of sense. I think a minor league deal would make a lot of sense there overall for Dom Smith and the Pirates. I also think the Chicago White Sox make plenty of sense there as well, because they are pretty right-handed heavy off the bench. And if you can add a guy like Dom Smith off the bench and add that left-handed presence, I think that'd be a really good thing overall for him or for them. But something that I think both of these teams should be mindful of as well is that he was obviously a very productive player with the Red Sox last season and just in general. But he's also one of the more respected clubhouse guys as well. And the presence that he would end up bringing to any team would be, I think it'd be a really underrated move for pretty cheap. So to me, I think that makes a lot of sense for both of those teams. I'm kind of surprised that he hasn't had a deal already, because I thought that could end up being coming at some point. But he's still out there on the market, so we'll see where he goes. But those are the two teams that I'm eyeing up at this point. Hunter is asking, what am I drinking? A cherry Coca-Cola, because I am switching it up from Mountain Dew, and it's a little warm, so that's not exactly great. but it is it's getting the job done. Red Sox fans love Big Dom. Eagles fans also love Big Dom too. Big Dom is my guy in Philadelphia. He's a very cool cat. Okay, now we're going to go to some of these comments here. People are asking for Cooper. Cooper was sleeping by my feet, but at some point during the show, he got up and left. I think he got tired of me talking because he went on a pretty long walk yesterday in addition to about 90 minutes at the dog park. So he's very tired, but my sources say he's a very happy puppy, which we love to hear. Greetings from France. I hope you're having a good trip there, Justin. I'm very happy for you there. Let's see. Yankees should acquire Eguy Rosario. I'm not kidding. Like, I feel like we're getting more Eguy Rosario comments here than we are getting like Juan Soto or even Aaron Judge comments. So I don't know exactly what's going on with that. But good job for Eguy Rosario, I guess. Bubba Chandler is an 80 grade name. You are right. MLB Deadline News. I think that's a very good, a very good statement there by you. Let's see. I'm going through some of these other comments here. Let's see. Is Hunter going to crash out today? Yes. He's 2 for 3 on crashing out during the season. So I feel like the odds are definitely in our favor for that. Who's the righty bat that Brian Cashman is calling teams on? He was checking all over the place, trying to get some different names there on offense to upgrade the roster. There was really nothing overall there that was going to end up being that intriguing for them. So that was always going to be a tough one for them to do. But I did think a guy like Mark Canha with the Milwaukee Brewers, when they were trying to make their last little adjustments to the roster, he would have made some sense there. But overall, to me, that was just going to be a tough one overall to end up accomplishing. I'm going to try to find at least another question here, but then I got something else with some podcast news. What about Spencer Turnbull? I honestly haven't heard anything else on Spencer Turnbull or even a guy like Robertson or just any of these other guys that are going to be available. And I mean, we still have David Peralta that's unsigned. There's been no progress there whatsoever from what I'm told. There's still plenty of like talented players out there. But at this point, you wonder if Duvall's unsigned with Peralta unsigned and some of these other veteran players unsigned, could this end up being the end of their careers? Like, we've even seen Duvall mention it, he didn't mention it, but it was reported that he wouldn't play unless he ended up getting the money that he wanted, which I believe that was a $3 million valuation, according to Joel Sherman. And the fact that Alex Verdugo got $1.5 million, that was always going to be tough for Duvall. So I don't think the odds are in Duvall's favor overall to go out and get that. Still have not heard anything else on JD Martinez as well, Doc. That's a good name to mention, though, but I have not heard anything. But one thing that I have heard about, though, is I want to give you guys a schedule reminder. There will be no shows on this podcast until next Friday due to a conference and vacation. I will be going on vacation, going to recharge the batteries a little bit, and then I will be back fresh and ready to go next Friday. There will also be no Q&A on Thursday in the Discord, so just a heads up for that. I have good news, however, that we will have a normal show at 3:30 Eastern Time on Friday, so we will be back there with Adam as well, which is going to be very exciting because it is kind of lonely just talking to yourself for 30 minutes. But hey, I feel like we've navigated it pretty well, though, so I appreciate everyone who is tuned in today for the podcast. I had an absolute blast talking to you all. I feel like I was pretty nice to Hunter overall. I like to troll Hunter, but Hunter's a friend. He can take it pretty well because I dish it out, he dishes it out, and it's a mutual thing. So shout out to Hunter. See, look at that. I'm being nice on a Friday afternoon. So I appreciate everyone in here. Joanne, our lovely producer, I appreciate you. I know Adam does as well. Drew, I will absolutely enjoy my vacation. Thank you, MLB Deadline News. I will try to enjoy. It's going to be a fun time, but I appreciate everyone who tuned in today, and I will see you all next Friday. Take care, everybody.